Hey, traders. So, happy 4th of July. And I was sitting here watching a video. Um, it's not 4th of July in Canada. It's a holiday. It's not really a holiday for us here. We had a holiday yesterday. But I was sitting here watching this Ray Dalio video. And ironically, or should I say not ironically, I got an email, well, a Skype message from one of my students. And I'm not going to show you his name because it doesn't matter, but this is something that I kind of have to deal with as a trading educator, and something that took me a very long time to figure out the answer on. It took me years and years. We won't even believe how many years it took me to learn how to do this, and even to this day I still struggle with it. But I want to read some of his Skype message to you because I think it's something that every trader has to deal with if they're going to eventually become a professional in this industry. So this gentleman says, Steve, I need some help. After all this time learning your methods and understanding clearly the system, I face a problem not with technique but with myself. I'm scared to trade and don't know how to fix it. I understand that is because of all my losses, but I don't know how to control it. Hope you have a possible solution. A part of want to trade, but when I'm in front of the PC, all I feel is fear, basically what he's saying. Now, I want to read the entire conversation to you and tell you how I help my students overcome these things, okay? So I said, well, fear is good, especially when you understand that 90% of the time markets are random and you'll just lose money if you trade in randomness. So don't be sad about the fearfulness, be happy because your fear is protecting you from losses. However, too much fear is a bad thing too. And he says, I understand, but I cannot take a single trade because of fear. So you have to deal with that. And I was just mentioning to him that I'm going to make a video and post this to my blog later discussing this exact topic because I was watching this video on Ray Dalio and he did such a great job. So I'm going to read the rest of it to you. There's certain things in here that I got to protect from him because it's content that I teach my students, but I'm going to read most of it to you. So I do objective risk management, my Kelly, all but a Kelly criterion, and all but an external force is over my head every time I want to take a trade. Interesting how he calls it an external force, right? And I said the thing is that you now must spend all of your time fixing this problem. And I say, you know how to trade now that I've taught you, right? And he says, yes, I do. And you finally understand that the reality of the markets and the amount of chaos that is going on in the markets is incredible, and you're going to get stopped out 90% of the time unless you trade in that non-chaotic environment. And he says, yes, I understand that. I says, the math does not lie, it's just math. So from this point forward, the goal is to fix yourself. And this is not an easy goal. I wish I could tell you it was easy, but it takes a lot of work and continuous effort. And I want to kind of talk to you guys about that. Oh my God, what's this down here? Remove eye bags. Anyway, if you don't watch Investors Archive, you should watch it. It's one of the greatest resources on the internet for traders. So the first step is to accept who you are. Accept that you have a problem. And in the article that Ray Dalio wrote, I have made some notes here. Steps to success. We all have goals and we all have passions, right? And you go after your goals and your passions and you encounter problems. Well, the big difference between people is how they approach these problems. People who get bummed out do not learn from their problems. And this is just a crib notes, if you will, of Ray Dalio's article. People who recognize that problems are exciting and turn those into something exciting, and those mistakes, and understand that mistakes are just a learning process. Ray goes on to say that pain is representative of a certain type of problem that will happen over and over and over again. But if you can solve that kind of problem, then you have the true holy grail of trading, don't you? That is the true holy grail of trading. Right? Now, so I want to talk about what Ray says, and then we're going to talk about my student again and how, I have overcome, well, I shouldn't say overcome, but I have found answers to this particular situation. So Ray says the second step is to diagnose the problems. Get to the root cause. What is it that's causing this problem? Now, I want to stop and tell you guys something here. In my personal journey of trying to become a successful trader and overcome the quote-unquote psychological issues of this business, I've read every single trading book out there on the subject. I've read multiple independent things on cognitive brain studies, and I've even paid $5,000 to a psychologist to try to help me with certain issues, etc., etc. And I want to tell you, I know exactly what you're going through. However, I did find the answer. Okay? And part of the answer is what Ray is saying here. He's saying that the real cause is typically what people are like or their personality type. So basically, the real root problem is you're just you. That's it. You're the problem. Your personality's the problem. And there's, as soon as people are willing to admit that your personality is the problem, then you're pretty much can solve that problem. But most people won't admit that it's just who they are that is the problem, and therefore their ego stands in the way of them solving that problem. So the process is to say, what am I like? What are my weaknesses? What are my strengths? Now, Ray said something really interesting in this that I thought was really interesting. He said, your weakness is the opposite side of your strength. And I did a little exercise just here to show you guys I'm as human as you are. And I said, okay, I'm going to list my weaknesses and my strengths. So, example, I tend to be stubborn at times and not accept that a trade idea is not working and try over and over again to be right rather than accept the reality of the fact it's simply not working. My idea is flawed. But my personality is one that I like to be right a lot. And when I'm not right, I get frustrated and I won't accept the reality. So that's my weakness. I know that. I've been dealing with that for years. I'm looking for an answer. So what's the opposite of my weakness? Well, my strength is when I decide to do something, I have the strength and tenacity to get it done, regardless how hard the battle is. Well, that's a very positive thing, isn't it? Right? I mean, I'm the type of person, I get stuff done. I do not quit on anything. However, the opposite side of that is the reason that when I have big trading losses, when I do. Because you've all been there. You think a trade is going to work, and you fire, and it doesn't work, and maybe you move a stop because you think it will eventually work, and you fire again, and you fire again. All of us have been there. It's a very common trading issue, right? So, in being honest with myself and putting my ego aside, my other weakness is I tend to be impulsive and just jump into trades, not calculating my correct trade size, and this results in larger losses that ruin my risk return ratios. Now, the strength side of this is that I am very fast at executions, and at times I can get amazing fills, and I find opportunities faster than a lot of other traders. Okay? So Ray goes on to say that once you diagnose the root cause, you have to design an answer to the problem of that root cause. Okay? So what you're looking for is you can't really change who you are as a person. Yeah, I don't even like saying that because I think you can change who you are as a person. But it's not easy to change who you are as a person. Okay? And the better thing to do is design a way around that problem. Okay? And that's what Ray is saying. And then you have to follow through on it. Okay? And then in order to be successful, you must do the things that are designed to work around that problem and turn them into a habit. And I like what Ray also said. He said it is a continuous iterative process. Okay. So, what is the answer? Okay. Now, I could tell you the answer right now, but that would not be fair to people that have paid me a lot of money to learn what the true answer is. And I actually have a process that I go through and I teach my students. And in this article, in this thing that I've discussed with my student here, I says, I've taught you. So I said, right now, you have to build a new habit of overcoming your fear of trading. So I says, how do you break an old habit? And you break an old habit by starting a new one. Okay? So I have very specific work that I have my students do called brain tracking. And it's a way that they can track their emotions and track how they're feeling during the trading day. And I also have another technique that I use which overrides your brain and puts you into a more calm and objective state. Now, for the purposes of this video, I'm sorry, I cannot share that with you because, it cost me probably $30,000 to $50,000 in research how to figure out how to do that, and probably another $500,000 in losses trying to figure out that I had to solve that problem. And I charge my students for that process that we do. So I can't share that with you. But what I can share with you is I can share with you the answer. So the answer is simple. Okay? The answer is to develop a new habit. A new habit that overrides basically your personality. So you can change your personality, you can change who you are, and you can change the way that you react to those problems. But, here's the big but, developing a new habit takes a lot of work. A lot of work. It's really hard. So, as I said to my student here in this chat that I had with him, okay, so it's great to do it, but it needs to become habitual. So the answer is you must start one day at a time. So I told him to reread the book, and this is a free gift that I'm going to give you, called The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. Okay, I'm going to repeat that. This is my gift to you. If you're a trader, this is an absolute must for you. Called The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. I am probably going to say his name wrong or pronounce it wrong. So what I basically said to him is, I've given you the techniques to overcome when you're feeling that fear, what you have to do. However, now you have to go and do the techniques that I've taught you for 21 days. Because it takes 21 consecutive days of building a new habit over an old one. Okay? It takes 21 days, and you cannot miss Hobbit. A new habit, and you cannot miss one day. So now what I've said to my student is, I've given you the techniques, you know what you got to do to overcome this fear. Now forget about trading, and for the next 21 days, just work on your brain tracking and the other meditative techniques that I've taught him. Okay, so you might, what are the techniques? I'll tell you. They're just meditation. They're being able to center yourself when you are in the trading process and the charts are flying around and numbers are falling around. Okay, I can tell you that much. I'm not going to get into the specifics. Now, so now his goal, he's learned how to trade, as many of you I'm sure also have learned how to trade. But now you go and follow your plan. And the reason you don't follow your plan is because it's not a habit. And the reason it's not a habit is because it's not who you are. We will all have strengths and weaknesses. So we're all going to have what I call the trading demons, if you will. Everybody's going to have some. My two, as I'm too stubborn, and I also tend to be impulsive. Okay? But I work on them. And I now have an answer. Now, one of the things that I'm going to warn you, every frickin' psychology book out there that I've ever bought, they're really good at describing the problems. Now, $5,000 that I paid to a cognitive psychologist to basically teach me, basically try to solve my problem, all they did was basically tell me that my mother didn't love me enough when I was a baby. And I went, well, that's fecking great. How is that going to help me trade? What do I have to do? Go and be reborn and get my mother to love me some more? Give me a break. Nonsense. So you need an answer. And the answer is, again, to develop a new habit. Okay? Throw away your psychology books. Just build a new habit, like Ray Dalio says, that is a design to work around the root cause of your personality. Okay? So, that's where my student is. And, you know, we finished off our conversation here saying, you know, I ended up saying to him, basically, this is why people write algos. Because an algo doesn't have human issues, right? However, I don't want you all guys to go out and start saying you should be writing algos. That's great if you can. However, algos have other problems. Big ones. Most of them, there are some very, very advanced ones that can think and adapt. Most of them are completely unadaptable. And one of the greatest assets that you must have as a trader is adaptability. If you don't have adaptability, you're just going to get destroyed by chaos. Because you have to know when markets are changing. That is the key to becoming a successful trader. When are markets chaotic? And when are they not? You got to have those two things. And when do they change from a non-chaotic environment to a chaotic environment? You got to have those three things. You got to learn when are markets predictable, when are markets chaotic? And more importantly, and by the way, in case nobody knows this, some of you will disagree with me and argue with me, but I can prove to you beyond a shadow of doubt 90% of the time, mathematically, beyond any form of argument, that markets are chaotic 90% of the time and only predictable 10% of the time. Okay, and everybody's that's probably watching this that's a retail trader is going to go, oh my God, he's so wrong. But I'm not. Believe me. I've lost so much money figuring that out, it's not even funny. The good news is when you know when they're predictable, you can make a lot of money. Okay? So, and more importantly, when do they transition? When do they transition? Okay, that's probably as important as the first two questions. Okay, so adaptability is very important. Anyways, I don't want to get off track. So this is my 4th of July gift to you guys. Go buy The Power of Habit. And spend the next 21 days working on yourself, not looking at the markets. Okay? If you do that, now, will you be cured? Heck no. Do I still fall pattern? Do I still fall back into these old patterns of stubbornness and impulsiveness? Yes, I do. I wish I could tell you guys 37 years later, I am cured. I wish I was. I wish I was. The only thing that's different is that now I can recognize when I need to change, when I need to work on myself. Again, because if I'm doing old habits, I have to now go and spend another 21 days overriding that old habit. Okay? And it's not as bad. Don't get me wrong. Before I learned specific techniques and I learned that trading was really just a process of making good decisions and having good habits. Before I learned all that, I would say that I used to fall into those old habits at least once a week. Once a week I would make those old, I guess, weaknesses would come through. But then as I started to work on myself, and I started to build new habits and learn how to meditate and learn how to do what I call brain tracking, it happened a lot less. It would happen once a month. Okay? And then as I would work on it some more and work on it some more, it would happen once a year. And now, I just recently happened to me a little while ago when the Forex markets were transitioning a little bit. Now it happens about once every 3 years. But I know the answer. The answer is to go and work on myself for another 21 days to stop that destructive behavior that Ray Dalio is talking about. Okay? So there is no, it's kind of like being an alcoholic. They say there is no cure, and you're constantly working on yourself. And I think that's what Ray Dalio said here when he said it's a continuous, iterative process. Okay? So there's my 4th of July gift to you, how to stop emotional trading sabotage. How to stop yourself from sabotaging from your trading demons. All right. If you want to know in greater detail the exact process that I have come up with and the meditative techniques that I've learned, well, you got to take my coaching for that. And thank God, you can request that as one of, an hourly coaching, or you can request that as one of a 3-hour coaching. If you take the full 16-hour coaching, then it's there as well too. Anyways, I do think I've given you enough information that maybe you need me, maybe you don't. Maybe the book, The Power of Habit, will be enough for you to fix those problems. But the good news is there are answers. And I'm living proof of it, because I have 2 of the worst weaknesses when it comes to trading. And I have found a way to solve them for the most part. Yes, they're not totally gone, but for the most part, I know how to fix that. And my students, they have different problems than me. I don't have a fear problem. He's got a fear problem. As a matter of fact, I have the opposite of a fear problem. I have a no fear problem. And you're all going to have problems too. So watch that Ray Dalio video. I highly recommend it. Thank you, and have a wonderful 4th of July, and bye for now.